Welcome to Dating Deja Vu, the podcast where we talk about your patterns, your pitfalls, and your personal growth in modern dating. I'm your host, Christina Hathaway, marriage and family therapist and dating and relationship expert. And today we're going to talk about how to tell someone that you love them with words and actions, and how to know if someone is in that loving place with you. So if your dating and love life looks a lot of bit of the same, it might be deja vu, but it also might be you. So let's figure it out together. What is up, Deja crew? We have a new view today. I'm just sitting at my desk rather than at the chair back there. Unfortunately, my father is in the hospital and I'm just trying to get a lot of things done. As you can tell, didn't even do my hair. I'm in a hat, but who gives a shit? In today's episode, we're going to talk about something that I was actually featured on the Knot website. And they asked me, like, how do you tell someone that you love them with your words and your actions? And, for me, I'm not just a dating and relationship coach. I've lived this firsthand. My now husband wasn't able to say the words, I love you, for a good year into our relationship. But through his actions, I felt deeply loved by him. And this was a big indicator to why I continued the relationship. And I wanted to kind of elaborate on my thoughts and feelings about this, because unfortunately in the Not website, it was just mentioned briefly, but I really put a lot of ideas into this. So, telling someone that you love them, like we kind of use that word, like love you, we throw it around very easily. But how do we say it in a way that actually lands, right? Where that person feels secure? I think for a lot of people, that's where they get stuck, because love isn't just about three little words. It's about the way we show up, how we communicate, and whether your actions actually meet what you're saying. And say that you're in a relationship with someone and you've dropped the L-bomb and they're saying it, but you still question that. Now, yes, some of that could be you and your inability to know what love and unconditional love feels like. And that would be something that you need to work on, because maybe love felt like you had to earn it. You had to act in a certain way or it would go away. Maybe love was withheld from you. But say that you've done your own work and now you're trying to experience what love feels like and ensure that, I feel loved more than they're telling me I'm loved. That's a big, big difference. So one of the biggest things, and number one, is saying it, but also meaning it. Love you, like I said, in a text is really cute. But if we're just saying it out of habit, then it won't hit the way that you think it will, right? Instead of just throwing it out there, we want to be intentional. We want to set up the scenario, look the person in the eyes, and let them feel the weight of your love. And some of the things you can try in this is say, I love you because, and then fill in the blanks about something specific about them. I love my husband because he's incredibly thoughtful. He's considerate. He's super helpful, very, very helpful in his actions. And he's very safe and caring. I mean, there's so many good things about him. So kind of saying it in the moment where, you're very clear about why, not just, I love you, but why, right? Because if I can give you some evidence to why, and of course, again, if you feel that that evidence is true, that is going to hit a lot differently. The other thing is like saying it in a moment where they need to hear it and not just saying it as a sign off, right? So, we all get into the habit. I have it with my husband. We end conversation with love you, right? Because I want that to be the last thing we say. However, if he's doing something really nice for me, and I'll say, I don't practice this as much as I should. And that's what's beautiful about this podcast is I get to remind myself of the things that are important to my own marriage. But, if he's being really thoughtful, like, I love you so much. Thank you for that. Like, just recently, my dad wanted a Yeti cup that we have at my house for his soup in the hospital. And I was pretty drained. I had stayed at the hospital overnight. They wake him up all night long. So I was also woken up all night long, and Mark drove it to him. Right. And it's about, 45 minutes to an hour situation, there and back. So I love you. Like, thank you so much for doing that is super duper helpful. Number two is we want to speak that person's love language, right? Not everyone hears the word I love you the same way. For some, it's the words. For others, it's a back rub, right? At the end of the day, or running the errand like Mark did for me, or just sitting in silence together, right? If you're saying it your way, but they don't receive love in that way, it may not land. So we want to pay attention, right? Want to pay attention to, do they light up when you compliment them and words of affirmation? Do they light up when you hold their hand, which is physical touch? Do they seem happiest with you when you're doing things for them, which is acts of service? Do they get really excited when you give them a gift? Or do they, are they at their calmest and safest when you are just with them and spending quality time? So while your love language, and I think people get love languages kind of mixed up, but like my personal love language is probably words of affirmation and acts of service. But that doesn't mean that Mark's are the same, right? My husband is definitely quality time and having fun. And I would say words of affirmation. I should probably check in on that. I don't think he's ever done the quiz. I will link the love languages quiz in the show notes below, so you guys can check that out too. But I know that, if I was just to act from my love language, that may not hit for him. Now, it could hit for your partner if you have the same love languages, but it's definitely something to think about, because you might be saying it and those words might not mean anything to them. They may have come from a family where everyone said I loved you, but treated each other like shit. Now, yes, again, that is your responsibility to take care of the person who had that experience. But also we can do things like, rub the back or hold the hand or whatever that looks like. I love when Mark grabs my hand. He grabs my hand anytime we're walking next to each other. And it makes me feel really, really happy when he does that. So, of course, as we already talked about, show them, don't just tell them, right? I love you doesn't mean much if your actions scream the opposite. Love isn't just words, it's the way that you show up. So when Mark couldn't, like, I would be like, love you, I love you. And I would wait for him to say it back, and he couldn't. And he said, like, that's just really hard for me. But at the moment, at that time, I mean, he was doing the same things he's doing now. He was really helpful with, I'm trying to think where I was in life at the time. He was helpful with the household. He was helpful with the dog when we had our dog. He would, get me water or fix things around the house or grab my hand when we were walking. He never spoke, negatively about me or criticized me. He was always very complimentary. And finally, it's the funny thing is, when he said, I love you, was actually in a bouquet of roses that he had on the counter. So he still struggled with the words, but the funny thing is we got engaged 6 months after that. So, saying I love you, but never prioritizing them, which he definitely prioritized me, doesn't mean anything. Whereas my husband couldn't say I love you, but he prioritized me. Saying I love you, but dismissing their feelings. Mark never was like, you shouldn't feel that way. Like, that's silly. He always, he struggles because he's very inquisitive. So one of his favorite lines is, the question is, and he'll go off on this, like, well, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And but he never invalidates my feelings. And if he ever has, and I've explained that I feel that he's invalidating me, he will very much, validate that and then change the way he's approaching things. Saying I love you, but refusing to commit. You see this a lot on like reality TV. I talked about it with like Shep and Sienna. She told him that she loved him, but she was not ready to commit to him. And he stood on her words. Like, that was his truth. Like, obviously this is going in the right direction because she tells me that she loves me. And for her, she didn't even think they were in a relationship. So that's a big one. Another way to show it is listening even when it's uncomfortable, right? Listening when maybe they're even giving feedback to you. If you truly love someone, you want to make sure you're not doing things that upset them or cross boundaries. Now, there's a difference well, let me say one thing. Both sides should feel that way, right? And there will be compromise, but we want to show up for our partners in the best way that we can for them and their particular needs. One of the amazing things that Mark does is he'll say, how can I help you? Because I don't remember what happened, but that was a conversation we had. I said, sometimes I just need you to ask, like, how can I help? And now he's really great about that. Is there anything that you need from me today to make things easier? I mean, my heart, even just saying that, flutters thinking about it. And on that note, just making an effort, right? Even in the little things. This week has been so tough with my dad. And, normally Mark cooks dinner and I do the dishes. And, I was so exhausted that some days he just did the dishes, right? Or he'll get me coffee when he gets up to get coffee. Like those little things are super helpful. He does really big things too. If we have an idea, he's definitely the one to execute it. Like we're building a pool in our backyard, and we're actually we live on a mountain, so we're doing like an above ground thing, but we're like doing the decking and like making it look really nice. And he's already started the process of it. And then choosing your partner, even when life gets busy, whether that's like laying in bed, he grabs my hand, right? When I'm, covered in dogs, sitting next to each other and, being affectionate, watching TV. My husband chooses me every day. We wake up. I make sure, one of us will walk to the other and give them a kiss. That's the first thing that we do. And the last thing we do before we go to sleep. And it means a lot. Like even if, there's been an argument and we go to sleep, I still turn over and kiss him because that's important. And I want him to know I still choose him, and at the end of the day, love is felt, right? More than it's heard. You don't just say it, you prove it. So I also want you to think about this, like this person is telling me they love me, but are they prioritizing me? Are they validating my feelings? Are they committing to me? And are they listening when it's uncomfortable and making an effort? Because if they're not, that's a conversation you need to have. I'm hearing you say these words, but I'm not feeling it on my end. Now, again, guys, we want to make sure that if we are having that conversation, we have to check ourselves. I say this all the time. If you grew up in an environment where love was withheld or love was earned in some sort of fashion, you're going to think that love is conditional. And unconditional love is going to feel very unfamiliar to you. And for me, I had to do that work inward on myself. I had to create that love for myself and know that I am deserving of love that is without condition. I am deserving of love that is not hurtful, right? And I had to do my own therapy and healing process on that. And once I was able to create that relationship with myself, it was much easier for me to recognize it when it presented itself from Mark. Whereas in my past relationships, all I did was earn the love by doing things for the person, showing them how great I was, and ultimately getting the words, but their actions didn't match. So I want you to be aware of that. But if you have done the work, you do know what unconditional love feels like. You are able to recognize it in the moment, and the person is saying it, but not doing the things that I listed, then it's time to have a conversation. And maybe they're just someone, like I said, they think their love language is your love language, and they're just showing up in the way they think they want you to show up, but you need something different. And what a wonderful thing, I say the word intimacy, into me you see. Let them see, let them hear how you experience love versus how they experience love. And be careful to throw that word out. I kind of loved that Mark was so guarded with it. His past relationship prior to me was very unpredictable, and love became unpredictable and almost scary, right, at times. So he was very guarded with it. And I was patient. That's another thing for you guys, to be patient. If you don't love each other on the same timeline, you love each other when you're ready, you feel safe, you feel connected, you can trust that person. we don't love on the same timeline, and that's okay. I think that Disney and reality TV kinds of tell, like everyone says it at the same time. You don't have to, and your partner doesn't have to. That doesn't mean they don't care. That doesn't mean the relationship isn't evolving. If they're guarded or they have their own timeline, let them, and focus on the actions, because they most likely are showing you that they have love for you and are in love with you. And once you say, I said that to Mark, I go, it's okay, Mark, I feel loved by you. And I think that's the first time anyone's ever said that to him. Like, I feel loved by you. Like, if you can't say the words, that's a you thing, right? That's something that I need to respect in you, but I feel loved by you. And I think that caught him off guard a bit, because he's like, oh yeah, like it's not just words, it's how I am. And he continues to build on that. I'm almost getting emotional talking about it. He continues to show me that every single day. And and it's wonderful. And I'm glad I didn't give up because he couldn't say it. And I'm glad I was aware and I was able to recognize the other areas, like the actions, the commitments, the choosing me every day. And those became more important than the words. So I thought this would be fun to talk about today. Quick episode for you guys. Let me know, what is your love language? If you don't know, as I mentioned, I'll put the quiz in the show notes below. If you are interested in doing your work on yourself, I'll also list our clarity call link for a quick call with me, kind of understand where you're at. Some really amazing sessions with some of my relationship and dating clients. And actually just got off the phone with one of them. And she told me, she said, Christina, I would still be with that guy if it wasn't for you. And I never take responsibility for how a client shows up for themselves. I'm just here to guide. But now she's able to be in a relationship and have conflict and recognize that the way the other person is feeling is their own experience and not anything about her or her worth. And she's just feeling so empowered. And it's just such a wonderful feeling. She referred me to a friend. We had our first session and she's feeling really empowered and just understanding why, in her case, she's having a hard time getting over a previous relationship. And I kind of started putting the puzzle pieces together for her. And that can be so healing. So if you're interested in that, check out the show notes below. If you haven't already, make sure to give us a follow or subscribe, whether you're on YouTube or anywhere that you listen to podcasts. I also need reviews. I need some reviews, guys. So if you're listening to this, just hit that 5 stars. If you could put a little note in there, that makes it look even better. But I don't have any reviews. So please do that. It's free. And I can't tell you how helpful it is. And of course, I'm going to leave you with this. It might be deja vu, but it also might be you. Talk to you soon.